It's always awkward when you don't get on with your colleagues, isn't it? I mean, there's one member of the Cultaholic staff I really can't stand. I won't say who it is, but his name rhymes with Bandrew Bodkinson. This can be especially uneasy when your job is to punch and kick each other, as these 10 pairs of wrestlers found out. Backstage fights, on-air blow-ups, friendships ruined in an instant. These workplace disagreements have them all, yet some also end up producing riveting television. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 wrestlers who hated working together. Join us! Number 10, Alberto Del Rio and Sin Cara. For as long as the company has been around, WWE has longed for a Latin American star to capture the Hispanic market. Pedro Morales, Tito Santana, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, WWE have put in a lot of hard work to win over this crowd, only to then do something stupid like sending Brock Lesnar out in a sombrero. Two more modern attempts to appeal to those south of the border were Alberto Del Rio and the original Sin Cara. Neither of them are with the company anymore, so guess how that went? It didn't help that these two men didn't really like each other, stemming back to several incidents in their native Mexico. Whilst in WWE, the pair clashed both on air and behind the scenes multiple times. The most famous incident between these two took place on the August 19th, 2013 edition of Monday Night Raw. The Masked Man actually called off his match with Del Rio because he had dislocated his finger within the first minute, which Del Rio felt was hardly worth throwing the X up for. The botch artist left WWE shortly after, whereas Alberto, well, you know. Number 9, Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar. In early 2016, Dean Ambrose had the world in the palm of his hand. He had almost won the Royal Rumble, fought Triple H for the WWE Championship, and was set to compete in a brutal no-holds-barred contest at WrestleMania. His opponent, the meatiest man of all, Brock Lesnar. The idea of seeing crazy Dean take on scary Brock in a match with no rules was positively mouth-watering. Unfortunately, one of the participants in this much-hyped matchup couldn't give any less of a toss if he tried, which he wouldn't because trying would be too much effort. As has been recounted many times, including by Dean himself on the Stone Cold podcast, Brock had little to no interest in putting together an engaging match with Ambrose. Instead, the Beast just chucked the lunatic fringe around for a bit before pinning him after an F5 to overwhelming indifference. This would be the last time these two men would work together, and it's only thanks to a feud with Chris Jericho that Ambrose was able to stay relevant. Hey, he's doing pretty alright for himself now, eh? Number 6, CM Punk and Ryback. Another real-life rivalry that was documented on a podcast now, only Dean Ambrose didn't get taken to court over what he said to old Stone Cold. In late 2012, WWE champion CM Punk was feuding with the up-and-coming mega monster Ryback. The two collided at Hell in a Cell, and Punk handed the big guy his first ever loss. No, Skip Sheffield doesn't count, grow up. The two then feuded as part of the Best in the World's rivalry with Paul Heyman in 2013 before Punk left the promotion in 2014 and was never heard from again. In reality, as you should all know, Punk took several shots at the company in the months after his departure. He also didn't hold back with his thoughts on Ryback, whom he called an unsafe worker in so many words. The two have continued to beef over the decade that followed their initial program together, to the point where you still can't mention the big guy online without starting a conversation about the straight-edge superstar. I guess Feed Me More also applies to trolly comments on Twitter. Number 7, Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. Whilst they didn't ever have a really memorable singles feud, Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks crossed paths multiple times throughout their respective WWE careers. They fought a few times down in NXT, battled at SummerSlam 2017, and were the final two in the first ever all-female Elimination Chamber match. To be honest, this is hardly surprising, as WWE's women's division has been considered shallow at best and a child's paddling pool with a hole in it at worst. This was a problem, as according to multiple sources, Bliss and Banks really didn't get on behind the scenes, and we've seen hints of this animosity creep into WWE programming. The boss fired shots at the goddess on an episode of Raw Talk, claiming that she deserved Alexa's spot more than she did. Thankfully, this was on Raw Talk, so only about 10 people saw it. The two continued to take subtle digs at one another across the years, reminding us all that they were not the best of friends. Although, due to the promotion's lackluster booking of their feuds, at least this real-life rivalry doesn't impact any memories of any meaningful storylines. Every cloud, eh? Number 6, John Cena and Alex Riley. You would be forgiven for forgetting who Alex Riley even is, let alone the fact that he was once involved in a storyline with John Cena. As protege/heavy for The Miz, Riley was part of the Awesome One's time as Mr. Money in the Bank and subsequent WWE title reign. This involved him tangling with Cena in the build-up to WrestleMania 27, where Miz defended the top prize against the face that ran the place. Things started going downhill for A-Rai in the 2011 Royal Rumble. He was supposed to score a huge elimination by chucking Cena out of the ring, but accidentally got eliminated himself before this spot could go down. This only made his and Cena's already frosty relationship even worse. According to Riley, this backstage heat with Big Match John was one of the main reasons his big push was cancelled, which contributed to him plummeting down the card. Of course, this could all just be a sore loser taking shots at a big name, but maybe these stories are true and Riley's career did suffer at Cena's hands. More like hustle, loyalty, and disrespect, am I right? Number 5, Booker T and Batista. The heat between Booker T and Batista from 2006 is just as melodramatic as any soap opera storyline WWE has ever run. As well as being perceived as an arrogant newcomer who didn't respect the business, Batista also caught flack for allegedly engaging in an affair with John Morrison's then-girlfriend Melina. Melina was taken to wrestler's court over her backstage attitude, something that the Animal didn't take kindly to. Booker, who was on the prosecution team, didn't take kindly to Dave not taking kindly to this. Are you following so far? This pressure cooker finally exploded during a photo shoot for that year's SummerSlam, where Booker and Batista were set to face off for the World Heavyweight Championship. After a war of words, the two men apparently got into an actual fist fight, with the Booker man reputedly coming out on top. Somehow, these two got over coming to blows and worked together without incident for the rest of the year. Fair play to the chaps for working through their actual dislike for one another, and also, if it's true, then fair play to Booker T for winning a fight with Batista. It's like winning a fight with a grizzly bear that knows karate. Number 4, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. October 22nd, 2021. The main event of SmackDown is a title exchange ceremony between Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch. Supposedly, Lynch was supposed to snatch the red belt away from Flair to briefly be Becky 2 belts again before handing the blue strap over to her fellow horsewoman. This would be to build some heat for the upcoming champion versus champion match at Survivor Series. However, according to Lynch during an episode of the Broken Skull Sessions, Flair thought that this made her look like a total chump. In retaliation, she went off script, dropping the belt at Becky's feet before the man could grab it. Understandably, this made everyone rather cross backstage. However, because WWE does not care for your stupid human feelings, they made the two women fight at Survivor Series anyway. All of this is such a shame because Becky and Charlotte used to be best friends. They came up in NXT together and were both responsible for changing the face of women's wrestling in the company. They even did that thing where they pretended to drink tea. You remember that? Kinda weird, wasn't it? Number 3, Chris Jericho and Chyna. Luckily for us dweebs who really like to get into the nitty-gritty of pro wrestling history, Chris Jericho has written plenty of books on the subject across his long and storied career. He has released 3 autobiographies so far and 1 self-help style title. These all contain juicy little tidbits from his time working in Japan, Smoky Mountain, ECW, WCW, and WWE, including what he thought about working with the 9th wonder of the world, Chyna. The founding member of DX was one of Jericho's first major rivals when he joined the Fed in 1999. Y2J won his first title from her, pinning her for the Intercontinental Championship at Armageddon. Their careers continued to intertwine in 2000, when the pair were named co-IC title holders. Jericho has gone on record saying how difficult he found working with Chyna to be, going so far as to describe her as terrible in one interview. As detailed in one of his books, he also got into major trouble from her then-boyfriend Triple H for allegedly stiffing her during a match. I mean, yeah, that can't have helped their relationship either. Number 2, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. This one almost didn't make the grade because there's so much conflicting information out there about when the Hulkster and Macho Man were friends and when they were enemies. One thing we do know for sure though is that at some points these two hated each other. Savage even made a diss track on his rap album about it. Yeah, Randy Savage released a rap album, and The real-life bad blood between the two icons came from something that was actually exploited in storyline ahead of WrestleMania 5, Hogan's supposed lust for Miss Elizabeth. Savage was allegedly a very jealous man and made assumptions that his wife Liz was getting overly friendly with Terrible Terry. To be fair, it is on record in a court of law that Hogan likes to sleep with other people's wives, so maybe he was onto something there. What had once been a strong friendship completely unraveled once Randy and Liz got divorced and the Hogans allegedly harbored the ex-Mrs. Macho Man, but that didn't stop the Megapowers from working together after the fact in WCW. They might have hated each other, but they loved money just that little bit more. Number 1, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I mean, could it really have been anybody else? Much has been said about who started it, who did what to who, and who was the bigger douchebag in the entire situation, but really both men should have known better than to antagonize each other so frequently. HBK yelled at the Hitman at WrestleMania 12, Hart said that Michaels was a poor role model, the showstopper accused Bret of having an affair with Sonny. It was honestly like watching two primary school children bicker, except one kid knew how to do a sharpshooter. Of course, you cannot talk about Bret and Shawn without at least mentioning that Canadian city beginning with M. You know the one. Moose Jaw. Yeah, that's a real place in Canada. You guys aren't helping yourself with the stereotypes. What happened in Moose Jaw time in Montreal was the cherry on top of a particularly toxic cake and was thankfully the last interaction these two would have for many years. It might be one of the greatest pro wrestling rivalries of all time, but the toll Hart versus Michael took on each man's personal life makes you wonder if it was all worth it.